Baby saw a German shepherd drowning in sewage. What he did next was pure love. What you're about to listen to will leave you speechless. A tiny hero's pure love changed everything in ways nobody saw coming. Like and share if this touches your heart. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The sky turned an angry shade of gray as thunder rolled across Millfield like a warning drum. 4-year-old Noah pressed his small nose against the car window, watching fat raindrops race down the glass. His mother, Mia, gripped the steering wheel tighter as her windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour. "Mommy, the sky is crying," Noah whispered, his breath fogging up the window. Mia forced a smile, trying to hide her concern. "It's just rain, sweetie. We'll be home soon." But the weather report had understated what was coming. What had started as an ordinary summer storm had transformed into something monstrous. 3 days of non-stop rain had pushed Millfield's aging infrastructure beyond its limits. The town, built in a valley and surrounded by 3 rivers, was now paying the price for years of neglected maintenance on its drainage systems. Noah's eyes widened as they drove past familiar streets now transformed into muddy rivers. Fire trucks with flashing lights blocked several roads. Men and women in bright yellow raincoats shouted instructions that were swept away by the howling wind before Mia could make sense of them. "Are we still going to Grandma's?" Noah asked, clutching his favorite stuffed rabbit tighter. Mia checked her phone. No signal. The storm must have taken down a cell tower. "Change of plans, buddy. We need to get home and make sure our house is okay." She turned onto Willow Lane, their usual shortcut home, only to find it partially flooded. The car splashed through puddles that reached halfway up the tires. The rain hammered against the roof like angry fists. Mia's knuckles turned white as she navigated around a fallen branch. That's when she saw it. Their path forward was blocked by a cascade of murky water pouring from an overflowing drainage tunnel. The underground system had surrendered to the deluge, forcing sewage and stormwater back up through manholes and drainage outlets. "Damn it," Mia muttered under her breath. She'd have to back up and find another way. But as she put the car in reverse, Noah unbuckled his seatbelt. "Noah, what are you doing?" Mia reached back to stop him. Noah's face had changed. The playful curiosity that usually danced in his eyes was replaced by something else, something unnervingly focused and intent. "Someone's in trouble," he said simply. "Noah, sit down and buckle up right now." Mia's voice sharpened with fear. The rain was getting worse, and water was starting to seep under the car doors. They needed to move to higher ground immediately. But Noah wasn't listening. He pressed his face closer to the window, staring at the half-submerged tunnel entrance where filthy water gushed out like a nightmarish fountain. The stench of sewage had begun to seep into the car, making Mia gag. "Noah, please." "Listen," Noah insisted, his small finger pointing toward the tunnel. "Can't you hear it?" Mia strained her ears but heard only the relentless drumming of rain and distant sirens. "There's nothing there, honey. It's just the storm." Noah shook his head stubbornly. "Something's crying, in the dirty water." A chill ran down Mia's spine that had nothing to do with her wet clothes. Noah had always been different from other children, more sensitive, more aware. Sometimes he knew things before they happened, like the time he insisted they shouldn't go to the beach, only for a dangerous riptide to form that exact day. Or when he'd woken up crying the night before his grandfather had a heart attack, despite being hundreds of miles away. "What kind of crying, Noah?" Mia asked, her irritation melting into unease. Noah's eyes never left the tunnel. Not a person crying, a dog crying, a big dog. Mia shifted the car into park and unbuckled her seatbelt to turn fully toward her son. "Noah, there can't be a dog in that tunnel. The water would have—" She stopped herself. No need to paint that picture for a 4-year-old. "He's stuck," Noah whispered, his small hands pressed against the window. "He can't get out and the bad water keeps getting higher." Thunder cracked directly overhead, making them both jump. The rain intensified, turning the world outside into a gray blur. Water had begun to pool around the tires. "We need to go, Noah, now. If there is a dog, we'll call animal control when we get somewhere safe." Mia reached for her phone again, but the screen remained stubbornly dark. The battery had died. Noah's lower lip trembled. "But they won't come in time." "Noah, please." Mia reached for her son, trying to guide him back into his seat. "We can't stay here. It's not safe." For a moment, Noah allowed himself to be moved, but as Mia buckled him in, his shoulders slumped in defeat, The car was suddenly rocked by a flash of emergency lights. A police cruiser had pulled up behind them, its headlights cutting through the gloom. Officer Daniel Taylor approached their window, rain plastering his uniform to his body. Mia rolled down her window just enough to hear him. "Ma'am, you need to evacuate this area immediately. The drainage system is backing up, and we're expecting a surge of water in the next 30 minutes. "We were just leaving," Mia assured him. "My son thought he heard—" "A dog!" Noah shouted from the back seat. "There's a dog in the tunnel!" Officer Taylor's expression softened as he looked at Noah. "That's just the storm playing tricks on your ears, little man. No dog would be down there." "But I heard it," Noah insisted, tears welling up in his eyes. "He's scared and can't breathe good." The officer exchanged a look with Mia, the kind adults share when humoring a child with an overactive imagination. "Tell you what," he said, leaning closer to the window. "I'll check it out after we get everyone to safety, okay?" Noah folded his arms across his chest, unconvinced. "You're lying." "Noah," Mia gasped. "That's not how we talk to police officers." But Officer Taylor just chuckled. "Smart kid. You're right. I probably won't have time, but you have my word. Once this storm passes, I'll come back and look." "He'll be dead by then," Noah said flatly. The words hung in the air, chilling even against the backdrop of the raging storm. Officer Taylor's smile faltered. "Ma'am, please follow me out of this area. The road behind us is still passable, but not for long." Mia nodded, casting a worried glance at her son in the rearview mirror. Noah had turned away, his face pressed against the window again, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. As they pulled away from the tunnel, following the cruiser's flashing lights, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that they were leaving something important behind. Noah's certainty had planted a seed of doubt in her mind. What if there really was something in that tunnel? But what could she have done? Put her child at risk for what was almost certainly nothing? The police escort led them to higher ground, where a temporary shelter had been set up in the community center. Volunteers handed out blankets and hot chocolate as more refugees from the storm trickled in. Mia found them a quiet corner where Noah could rest, but her son wouldn't settle. "We left him there," he kept saying, his voice hollow. "He was calling for help, and we left him." Mia stroked his damp hair. "Noah, honey, there was nothing in that tunnel but dirty water." "You didn't hear him because you weren't listening," Noah said, pulling away from her touch. "Grown-ups never listen right." Hours passed. The storm raged on outside, but the shelter remained secure. Noah had finally fallen into an exhausted sleep, his head on Mia's lap, when Officer Taylor entered the community center. His uniform was soaked and muddy, and he looked bone-tired as he consulted with the shelter coordinator. On impulse, Mia gently shifted Noah onto a makeshift bed of blankets and approached the officer. "How bad is it out there?" she asked. Officer Taylor ran a hand through his wet hair. "Not great. The north side of town is completely flooded. We've got emergency crews working around the clock, but this storm isn't letting up." Mia hesitated, feeling foolish even as the words formed on her lips. "That tunnel, where we were earlier, has anyone checked it?" The officer looked at her strangely. "Why would we?" "My son was so certain he heard something. He's not usually like this. He's sensitive sometimes, notices things others don't." Officer Taylor's expression softened. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but we've got people trapped in actual houses. We can't divert resources to check drainage tunnels on a child's hunch." "Of course, I understand." Mia started to turn away, embarrassed for even asking. "But," the officer added, making her pause, "if it makes you feel any better, those tunnels have emergency overflow systems. If there was anything in there, which is highly unlikely, it would have been either washed out or found its way to one of the exit points by now." Mia nodded, not entirely reassured. "Thank you." When she returned to Noah, she found him awake, sitting up with his knees pulled to his chest. "You asked about the dog," he said quietly. "It wasn't a question?" Mia sat beside him. "How did you know that?" Noah shrugged. "I just did." He looked up at her, with eyes that seemed too old for his face. "But you didn't believe me. Nobody does." "It's not that I don't believe you, Noah. It's just—" "He's still alive," Noah interrupted. "But not for long. The water's up to his neck now." A chill ran through Mia despite the warmth of the shelter. "Noah, please stop. You're scaring me." "I'm scared too, Mommy," Noah's voice cracked. Because I can feel him dying, and I can't help. Mia pulled her son close, feeling his small body tremble against hers. It's going to be okay, she whispered, not knowing what else to say. Noah shook his head against her shoulder. No, it's not. Not unless we go back. Outside, lightning flashed, illuminating the shelter's windows for a brief, terrifying moment. The storm wasn't done with them yet, and somehow, Mia knew neither was that tunnel. As the night deepened, the storm gradually began to lose its fury. The rain didn't stop, but it softened from a violent downpour to a steady drizzle. Emergency updates announced that the worst had passed, though flooding remained severe in many areas. Mia had finally managed to coax Noah into eating some soup and crackers. He sat quietly now, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. The haunted look in his eyes broke her heart. Noah, she said gently, I want you to know that I hear you. I may not hear what you hear, but I believe that you heard something. Noah looked up, a flicker of hope crossing his face. You do? Yes, Mia said, making a decision she hoped she wouldn't regret. And as soon as it's safe, we'll go back and check, I promise. It needs to be now, Noah said urgently, not when it's safe. He doesn't have time. Mia sighed. Sweetie, we can't just... Excuse me, a new voice interrupted. Mia looked up to see an elderly man with a weathered face and kind eyes. He wore the reflective vest of a volunteer. I couldn't help overhearing. Your boy thinks there's a dog trapped somewhere? Mia nodded, embarrassed. In a drainage tunnel on Willow Lane, but it's just... I believe him, the man said simply. Mia stared at him in surprise. I'm sorry, what? The old man knelt down to Noah's level, his knees cracking with the effort. My name's Henry. I used to work for the water department before I retired. Know those tunnels like the back of my hand. He smiled at Noah. And I've learned over the years that kids and dogs have ways of understanding each other that grown-ups can't always comprehend. Noah's eyes widened. You believe me? I do, Henry said. And I've got a truck that can get through high water. If your mom agrees, I'd be willing to go check out that tunnel. Mia hesitated. Could she trust this stranger? And even if she could, was it worth the risk? As if reading her thoughts, Henry added gently, I understand your concern, ma'am, but I've got 40 years of experience with flood rescue, and I'll have my radio with me. If it gets too dangerous, I'll turn back. No heroics. Noah's hand slipped into Mia's, squeezing with surprising strength. Please, Mommy. Outside, the rain had almost stopped. The emergency sirens had gone quiet. Maybe, just maybe. I'm coming with you, Mia heard herself say. Henry nodded, respect in his eyes. Fair enough, but the little one stays here. No, Noah protested immediately. I need to come. He won't come out for anyone else. Mia exchanged a look with Henry. The old man shrugged. Sometimes animals do respond better to children, but he stays in the truck no matter what. Deal? Noah nodded eagerly, already scrambling to his feet. 20 minutes later, they were bumping along flooded streets in Henry's ancient but surprisingly capable pickup truck. Mia had left word with the shelter coordinator about where they were going, along with a promise to be back within the hour. You said you worked for the water department, Mia said as Henry navigated around a fallen tree. Do you really think there could be a dog trapped in that tunnel? Henry kept his eyes on the road. Wouldn't be the first time something or someone got caught in the system during a flood. These old tunnels connect to all sorts of places. Dog could have been swept in from anywhere. But how could it survive in those conditions? Mia pressed. The water, the sewage. Dogs are tough, Henry said simply, and if it found an air pocket or something to stand on, he trailed off, then added, or maybe your boy's hearing things the rest of us can't. Wouldn't be the strangest thing I've seen. From the back seat, Noah spoke up. We're getting closer. I can hear him better now. Mia turned to look at her son, worry churning in her stomach. What would happen when they reached the tunnel and found nothing? How would Noah handle the disappointment? Or worse, what if there really was a dog, but it was already... Here, Noah suddenly shouted, pointing ahead. Henry slowed the truck as they approached the tunnel entrance. The floodwaters had receded somewhat, but the area was still a mess of mud, debris, and foul-smelling water. The tunnel mouth gaped like an open wound in the hillside, still disgorging a steady stream of murky water. Stay in the truck, Henry instructed firmly, as he pulled to a stop. He reached behind his seat and produced a powerful flashlight and a coil of rope, both of you." Mia nodded, but Noah was already pressing his face against the window, his breath fogging the glass. "He's there," he whispered, "right inside, but he's very tired now." Henry approached the tunnel cautiously, testing the ground with each step. The beam of his flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing the curved concrete walls of the drainage system. He stopped at the entrance, shining the light inside and calling out, "Hello there, anyone in here?" Nothing but the echo of his own voice and the gurgle of receding water answered him. In the truck, Noah fidgeted impatiently. "He can't bark anymore," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "His head is barely above the water." Mia put an arm around her son, trying to prepare him for disappointment. "Noah, honey, even if there was a dog in there earlier, it might be gone now. The water could have washed it." "There!" Noah suddenly shouted, pointing frantically. Mia looked up just in time to see Henry startle, his flashlight beam jerking to fix on something inside the tunnel. The old man stood frozen for a moment, then quickly tied his rope to a nearby tree and waded into the water. "Noah, what's happening?" Mia asked, straining to see. But Noah had already unbuckled his seatbelt and was fumbling with the door handle. "He found him!" he cried, excitement and relief flooding his voice. "But he needs help!" Before Mia could stop him, Noah had the door open and was splashing through the muddy water toward the tunnel, his small rain boots kicking up dirty spray with each step. "Noah!" Mia screamed, scrambling after him. "Stop!" But her son was surprisingly fast, propelled by determination. By the time she caught up to him, he was already at the tunnel entrance where Henry was now crouched in knee-deep water, his flashlight illuminating a sight Mia would never forget. There, half submerged in filthy water, was a large German shepherd. Its head rested on a small ledge of concrete, barely above the waterline. One of its paws was trapped beneath a piece of debris, preventing it from climbing to safety. The dog's eyes were dull with exhaustion, but they flickered with faint recognition as Noah approached. "I told you," Noah whispered, looking up at his mother with tears streaming down his face. "I told you he was here." Henry waded deeper into the tunnel, his experienced movements careful and measured. "Stay back, both of you. The water level's dropping, but the current is still strong enough to pull you in." But Noah wasn't listening. His small body trembled with urgency as he took another step forward. "He doesn't have much time left." The German shepherd's eyes, though clouded with exhaustion, followed Noah's every move. Its chest heaved with labored breaths, each one seeming more difficult than the last. The stench of sewage and decay hung heavy in the air, but Noah didn't seem to notice as he reached out toward the animal. "Noah, don't!" Mia grabbed for her son's arm, but it was too late. Noah had broken free and splashed forward until the filthy water reached his waist. His rain boots filled instantly, weighing down his small legs, but determination kept him moving. "I'm coming," he called to the dog. "I promised I would come back." Mia's heart nearly stopped. "Noah, you've never been here before." But her son didn't acknowledge her words. His focus remained entirely on the struggling animal. Henry had managed to reach the dog and was attempting to free its trapped paw, but the current made it difficult to get proper leverage. "The debris is wedged tight," Henry called back, his voice echoing in the concrete tunnel. "And he's not letting me get too close." Indeed, despite its weakened state, the German shepherd had managed a low warning growl when Henry's hands came near its face. "He's scared," Noah said with absolute certainty. "He doesn't know you want to help." Before Mia could stop him, Noah had waded to Henry's side. The water lapped dangerously at his chest now, its murky surface carrying all manner of debris. "Noah!" Mia screamed, fighting her way through the water after him. But every step was a battle against the current and the treacherous, slippery tunnel floor. Noah reached the dog and, to Mia's horror, placed his small hand directly on the animal's head. The German shepherd, who had been growling at Henry's approach, immediately fell silent at Noah's touch. Its eyes, though dull with exhaustion, focused on the child with unmistakable recognition. "See," Noah said softly to the dog, "I told you I would find you." Henry used the distraction to work on freeing the dog's trapped paw. With a grunt of effort, he finally dislodged the piece of concrete, pinning it down. "Got it," he exclaimed. "Now we need to get him out of here before—" A loud rumble interrupted him, reverberating through the tunnel. The ground beneath them vibrated slightly. "What was that?" Mia asked, finally reaching Noah and pulling him against her. Henry's weathered face grew grave. "Water surge. The storm must have caused a collapse upstream. We need to move, now." He reached for the dog, but the animal snapped weakly at his hands. "He won't let you," Noah said calmly. "He only trusts me." "Noah, we don't have time for—" "Let me try." Noah wriggled free from his mother's grasp and moved closer to the dog. "You have to come with us," he whispered to the animal. "I know you're waiting for your friend, but he's not here anymore. You can't stay." The German Shepherd whined softly, its eyes never leaving Noah's face. "Please," Noah continued, his voice breaking. "I need you to trust me." To Mia's amazement, the dog struggled to its feet, wobbling precariously on the slippery ledge. Its fur was matted with filth, and one of its hind legs appeared injured, but determination shone in its eyes, mirroring the look on her son's face. Another rumble, louder this time, shook the tunnel. The water level began to rise again, swirling around Noah's chest. "That's it," Henry said firmly. He scooped Noah up with one arm and grabbed the dog's collar with his other hand. "We're leaving. Now." But the German Shepherd pulled back, nearly yanking Henry off balance. It turned toward the darkness deeper in the tunnel, whining urgently. "What's it doing?" Mia asked, panic rising in her voice. "We need to go." Noah squirmed in Henry's arm. "He's trying to tell us something. There's something else in there." "There's a flash flood coming, that's what's in there," Henry replied grimly. "And if we don't move now, we'll all be washed away." The German Shepherd barked suddenly, a hoarse, painful sound from its waterlogged lungs, and lunged toward the deeper tunnel, only to be held back by Henry's grip on its collar. "Please," Noah begged, tears streaming down his face. "He says there's another one. We have to look." Henry and Mia exchanged glances. The rumbling was growing louder, and the water had risen another inch in just the past minute. "Go," Henry said to Mia. "Take Noah to the truck. I'll check quickly and be right behind you." "No," Noah cried. "The dog won't show you. It has to be me." "Absolutely not," Mia snapped, reaching for her son. "Henry, give him to me." But the old man hesitated, looking at the desperate German Shepherd, and then back at Noah's tear-streaked face. The boy might be right. Dogs are smart, and this one seems fixed on him for some reason. He set Noah down on the concrete ledge, safely above the rising water. "Stay right here. Don't move an inch. I'll hold the dog's collar and we'll look together. Just a quick look, no more than 30 seconds. Mia wanted to scream, to grab her son and run, but something in Henry's steady gaze made her hesitate. This man had spent his life in these tunnels. If he thought they had 30 seconds, they had 30 seconds. 30 seconds, she agreed, her voice shaking. Not 1 second more. Noah nodded solemnly and turned to the dog. "Show us, quickly." The German Shepherd immediately turned and limped deeper into the tunnel, pulling Henry along. Noah followed, staying on the raised ledge that ran along the tunnel wall. The beam of Henry's flashlight danced across the curved concrete walls as they disappeared around a bend. Mia counted each second in her head, fighting the urge to run after them. The water continued to rise, now reaching midway up her thighs. The rumbling had become a constant background noise, like distant thunder. 22, 23, 24. Just as she was about to call out, she heard Noah's voice echo from inside the tunnel. "We found it! Come help!" Mia splashed forward, her heart pounding. Around the bend, Noah stood on the ledge, pointing excitedly at something in the water. The German Shepherd was trying to reach whatever it was, whining and pawing at the water's surface. Henry aimed his flashlight where Noah pointed, revealing a small waterproof case wedged between two pipes. It was military style, olive green, and secured with heavy-duty clasps. "That's what he was trying to show us?" Henry asked, puzzled. Noah nodded vigorously. "It's important. He says it's very important." Henry handed Mia his flashlight and waded over to retrieve the case. "It's stuck pretty good," he grunted, pulling at it, "and heavy, too." With a final heave, the case came free. Henry immediately turned back toward the tunnel entrance. "Time to go. That water's rising fast now." They hurried back toward the entrance, the German Shepherd limping alongside Noah, who kept one hand on its filthy fur at all times. The dog seemed unwilling to be more than a few inches from the boy. They had almost reached the tunnel mouth when the rumble became a roar. A wall of water surged around the bend behind them, carrying branches, trash, and other debris in its churning mass. "Run!" Henry shouted, pushing Mia and Noah ahead of him. "To the truck! Now!" They burst out of the tunnel just as the flood surge exploded behind them. Water sprayed over their backs as they scrambled up the muddy bank. The German Shepherd, despite its injured leg, managed to keep pace with Noah, who refused to let go of its matted fur. They reached Henry's truck with seconds to spare. As they piled in, the dog hesitating only until Noah called to it, the flood surge poured from the tunnel mouth like water from a fire hose, quickly submerging the area they had just escaped. Inside the truck, they sat in stunned silence, dripping wet and reeking of sewage. The German Shepherd collapsed on the floor at Noah's feet, its chest heaving with exhaustion. Despite its filthy condition, Noah immediately bent down to wrap his arms around the animal's neck. "You did it," he whispered into the dog's ear. "You saved the important thing." Henry placed the waterproof case on the seat between himself and Mia. "Wonder what's so special about this," he murmured, examining it. "We should get back to the shelter," Mia said, still shaking from their narrow escape. "That dog needs medical attention, and all of us need to get cleaned up and checked out." Henry nodded and started the truck. As they pulled away from the now flooded area, Mia looked back at her son. Noah had his forehead pressed against the German Shepherd's, whispering something she couldn't hear. The dog's eyes were closed, but it leaned into the boy's touch, as if drawing strength from the contact. "Noah," she said gently, "how did you know? How did you hear the dog when no one else could?" Noah looked up, his eyes serious beyond his years. "I didn't hear him with my ears, Mommy. I heard him here," he tapped his chest. "And he heard me the same way." The German Shepherd opened its eyes at Noah's words, gazing at the boy with what could only be described as devotion. Back at the shelter, their arrival caused quite a stir. Dripping with fetid water and accompanied by an equally soaked German Shepherd, they were immediately surrounded by concerned volunteers. Officer Taylor pushed through the crowd, his expression cycling from relief to disbelief. Did you actually find a dog in that tunnel?" he asked, staring at the bedraggled animal leaning against Noah's leg. "Noah found him," Mia said, placing a proud hand on her son's shoulder. "He knew exactly where to look." A volunteer brought towels, while another, a woman who identified herself as a veterinary assistant, knelt to examine the German Shepherd. "He's exhausted and dehydrated," she reported after a quick check. "That back leg needs proper attention, but nothing seems life-threatening. He's lucky you found him when you did." Noah smiled weakly, the adrenaline that had carried him through their adventure finally wearing off. "His name is Storm," he announced. "How do you know that?" Mia asked, wrapping a towel around his shoulders. Noah shrugged. "He told me." The veterinary assistant continued her examination, parting the matted fur around the dog's neck. "That's strange," she said, frowning. "There's some kind of collar underneath all this dirt, but it doesn't look like a regular pet collar." She worked her fingers under the heavy band circling the dog's neck and revealed what appeared to be a tactical collar with a small metal box attached to it. The box had a blinking red light. "What is that?" Officer Taylor asked, leaning closer. "I don't know," the woman admitted. "I've never seen anything like it." Henry, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. "Maybe it's related to what's in this case." He lifted the waterproof container they had retrieved from the tunnel. Officer Taylor eyed the case with newfound interest. "Where did you find that?" "In the tunnel," Mia explained. "The dog, Storm, led us to it. Noah said it was important." All eyes turned to the mysterious case. It was military grade, with reinforced corners and heavy-duty clasps. A serial number was printed on one side, partially obscured by mud. "Should we open it?" Henry asked, looking at Officer Taylor. The police officer hesitated. "I'm not sure that's a good idea. If it's military—" "It wants us to open it," Noah interrupted, his voice small but certain. "Storm says we need to see what's inside." The adults exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them about the wisdom of taking direction from a 4-year-old's claimed communication with a dog. But something about Noah's unwavering certainty gave them pause. "Let me take a look at those clasps," Henry finally said, setting the case on a nearby table. As he examined the locking mechanism, Storm managed to stand up despite his exhaustion. He limped over to the case and placed one muddy paw on it, looking expectantly at Noah. "He says there's no danger," Noah translated, "just answers." Henry found the release for the clasps and carefully opened the case. Inside, protected by waterproof padding, were several items. A thick folder with "Classified" stamped across it in red, a small metal box similar to the one on Storm's collar, and what appeared to be a specialized tablet computer. Officer Taylor immediately held up a hand. "Whoa, hold on. This is definitely military or government property. We should contact the proper authorities before going through any of this." But Storm had other ideas. The German Shepherd nudged the small metal box with his nose, then looked at Noah. With the innocent boldness that only a child could muster, Noah reached into the case and picked up the box before anyone could stop him. It had a simple slider switch on one side, which Noah promptly flipped. The box emitted a series of beeps, and then the small screen on its face lit up with a message. "Canine Unit 7, Guardian Program, Handler Status Check Initiated." Storm's collar device began blinking faster in response, the red light changing to green. "What the hell is this?" Officer Taylor muttered, peering at the devices. Noah looked up at the adults, his eyes wide with understanding that seemed impossible for his age. "Storm is special," he said simply. "He was trained to find people and things during disasters, but something went wrong." The veterinary assistant, who had been carefully cleaning some of the mud from Storm's fur, suddenly gasped. "There's a tattoo inside his ear, a serial number and some kind of insignia." Storm whined softly and pressed closer to Noah, as if seeking protection, now that his secrets were being revealed. Mia knelt beside her son, looking from him to the dog and back again. "Noah, how do you know all this? How can you possibly know what Storm is thinking?" Noah stroked the dog's head, his small fingers gentle against the matted fur. "I don't know how I know. I just do." He looked up at his mother, his expression suddenly vulnerable and childlike once more. "You believe me now, right?" Mia pulled her son into a tight hug, careful not to dislodge his hand from Storm's head. "Yes, baby, I believe you." Officer Taylor carefully lifted the classified folder from the case. "I need to call this in. Whatever this is, it's way above my pay grade." As the adults busied themselves with next steps, Noah remained by Storm's side, continuing their silent communication. The German Shepherd's eyes never left the boy's face, and a subtle change had come over the animal. Despite its exhaustion and injuries, there was a newfound alertness in its posture, a sense of purpose rekindled. "What is he telling you now?" Mia asked quietly, noticing the intense connection between her son and the dog. Noah's answer sent a chill down her spine. "He says we found part of the truth," the boy whispered, "but there's more, much more, and we're not safe yet." The hours that followed were a blur of activity. Government officials in unmarked vehicles arrived at the shelter, their formal attire and serious expressions standing out among the displaced residents in their muddy clothes. They spoke in hushed tones with Officer Taylor, occasionally glancing toward Noah and Storm. Mia sat protectively beside her son as a medical team examined both him and the dog. The veterinarian who had been called in confirmed what they already suspected. Storm was no ordinary pet. His physique, despite his current weakened state, showed evidence of specialized training and conditioning. The small device embedded in his tactical collar contained sophisticated tracking technology and biometric sensors. "He's essentially a four-legged soldier," the vet explained, carefully cleaning Storm's injured hind leg. "These military working dogs undergo training more intensive than most human special forces." Noah watched every movement of the vet's hands with anxious attention. "Will his leg be okay?" The vet smiled reassuringly. "The muscle is strained and there's some tissue damage, but nothing's broken. With proper care, he'll recover completely." Relief washed over Noah's face, and he immediately bent down to whisper the good news into Storm's ear. The German Shepherd's tail thumped weakly against the floor in response. Meanwhile, the officials had moved the waterproof case to a separate room for further examination. One of them, a stern-faced woman who had introduced herself only as Agent Reeves, now approached Mia. "Mrs. Parker, we need to speak with your son about how he found the dog and the case." Mia straightened, her protective instincts flaring. "He's only 4 years old. He's been through enough today." "I understand your concern," Agent Reeves replied, her tone softening slightly. "But this is a matter of national security. The program that dog was part of is classified, and we need to understand how your son knew where to find him." Before Mia could respond, Noah spoke up. "I can tell you," he said, his small voice steady. "Storm told me." Agent Reeves crouched down to Noah's level, her skepticism poorly concealed behind a forced smile. "What exactly did Storm tell you, Noah?" Noah looked at the German Shepherd, who returned his gaze with unwavering focus. A silent communication seemed to pass between them before Noah answered. "He said he was on a mission with his partner, but something went wrong. There was an explosion and they got separated. His partner told him to guard the case before the water came. He was waiting when I heard him calling for help. The agent's practiced composure slipped for just a moment. His partner? You mean his handler? A person? Noah shook his head. No, his dog partner. They work together. Storm finds people trapped in disasters, and his partner finds other things. He paused, his forehead creasing with concentration. Storm says his partner's name is Shadow. Agent Reeves stood abruptly, exchanging a significant look with one of her colleagues. She stepped away to confer in whispers, occasionally glancing back at Noah. Mia pulled her son closer. Noah, how do you know these things? Did you see something in the tunnel that you haven't told me about? Noah leaned his head against her, suddenly looking very tired. I don't know how I know, Mommy. I just hear Storm in my head. Like how I knew when Grandpa was sick before anyone called us. Mia's breath caught. She remembered that night all too well. Noah waking up screaming that Grandpa needed help, hours before the phone rang with news of his heart attack. She had tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but now... Has this happened before, with other animals? Noah nodded slowly. Sometimes. The neighbor's cat told me she was going to have kittens before anyone knew, and I could hear that bird with the broken wing crying in the park last summer. Mia's mind raced. All those times she had dismissed Noah's uncanny insights as an overactive imagination or lucky guesses. Had he actually been perceiving something real, something beyond normal human perception? Her thoughts were interrupted when Agent Reeves returned, her expression now carefully neutral. Noah, would you and Storm come with us for a little while? We have some special equipment that might help us understand how you two are communicating. Absolutely not, Mia said firmly, standing to place herself between the agent and her son. He's exhausted and traumatized. Whatever you need to do can wait until tomorrow. Agent Reeves's professional smile didn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Parker, I don't think you understand the significance of what's happening here. Your son has somehow formed a connection with a highly trained military asset. This isn't just curiosity on our part. It's protocol. I don't care about your protocol. He's my son, not your science experiment. The tension between the two women was broken by a soft whine from Storm. The German Shepherd had struggled to his feet and was now standing protectively beside Noah, his body positioned between the boy and the agent despite his obvious pain. Noah placed a calming hand on Storm's back. It's okay, he told the dog. They're not bad people. They're just scared because they don't understand. Agent Reeves stared at the pair, her calculated demeanor cracking slightly. What don't we understand, Noah? That some people can hear animals, not their barking or meowing, but their inside voice, their real voice. Noah looked up at her with those disconcertingly wise eyes. Storm says there are others like me. That's why they made the Guardian program, to find people who can hear. A heavy silence fell over the room. Even the other officials had stopped their activities to listen. How does he know about the Guardian program? One of them whispered. That name isn't even in the files we found. Noah continued, seemingly unaware of the stir he had created. Storm says Shadow is still out there somewhere. We need to find him. Agent Reeves had gone very still. Noah, this is very important. Did Storm tell you where Shadow might be? Noah frowned in concentration, his hand never leaving the dog's fur. He doesn't know exactly. They got separated when the tunnels flooded. But he closed his eyes, as if listening to something only he could hear. But Storm thinks Shadow would try to find high ground, somewhere safe to wait. One of the other agents stepped forward, tablet in hand. The topographical maps show several elevated areas within a 2-mile radius of the tunnel entrance. If the other dog was swept into a different branch of the drainage system. Agent Reeves nodded sharply. Organize search teams immediately. Focus on exit points near those elevated areas. She turned back to Mia, her demeanor now respectful rather than demanding. Mrs. Parker, I understand your concerns, but your son's abilities could be crucial in finding the other dog. Would you at least consider allowing him to help guide our search efforts? You would be with him the entire time, of course. Mia looked down at Noah, who was gazing up at her with pleading eyes. Shadow needs help, Mommy. Storm is really worried about him. The exhaustion in her son's face was evident, but so was his determination. She recognized that look, the same stubborn resolve he had shown when insisting there was a dog in the tunnel. She had doubted him then and been proven wrong. Could she deny him now? We'll help, she finally said, but only for a few hours. After that, Noah needs rest, regardless of whether you found the other dog or not. Relief washed over Noah's face, and he bent down to whisper something to Storm. The German Shepherd's tail gave a tired wag in response. Within 30 minutes, they were in a government SUV heading toward the first search area. Storm had been cleaned up as best as possible in the shelter's makeshift facilities, and a veterinary technician had bandaged his injured leg. He lay on the back seat with his head in Noah's lap, occasionally lifting it to look out the window, as if searching the landscape for his missing partner. The Guardian program was established 5 years ago, Agent Reeves explained as she drove. Its purpose was to train specialized canine units for disaster response and recovery operations. These weren't just ordinary search and rescue dogs. They were paired with handlers who demonstrated unusual aptitude for animal communication. "You mean people who could hear animals like Noah does?" Mia asked, still struggling to accept this new reality. Agent Reeves hesitated. "Not exactly. The program sought out individuals with high empathy scores and natural affinity for animal behavior. They were trained using specialized equipment to enhance their bond with their canine partners." She glanced in the rearview mirror at Noah. "But what your son describes, actually hearing the dog's thoughts, that's beyond anything our program achieved." "Then how does he know about it?" "That's what we're trying to figure out. The information in that case could help us understand." The agent slowed the vehicle as they approached a small rise overlooking a section of the drainage system's outflow. This is the first potential exit point. If Shadow was swept through this branch of the system, he might have made it out here. They parked, and Noah immediately opened his door, Storm struggling to follow, despite his injury. The twilight was deepening into night, but powerful floodlights had been set up by the advance team, illuminating the area in harsh white light. "Noah, wait!" Mia called, hurrying after her son. "Let the agents check the area first." But Noah was already making his way down the gentle slope, one hand on Storm's back for support. The German Shepherd, despite his weakness, seemed energized by their purpose, his nose working the air as they approached the concrete outlet where water still flowed from the drainage system. Agent Reeves and her team spread out, searching the muddy banks for signs of the missing dog. One agent carried specialized thermal imaging equipment, scanning the surrounding vegetation for heat signatures. Noah stopped suddenly, his head tilting as if listening. "Storm says Shadow isn't here. He would have left a sign." "A sign?" Agent Reeves asked. "What kind of sign?" Noah looked to Storm, waiting. After a moment, he pointed to a nearby tree. "Like that. Shadow leaves marks on trees when they get separated. It's part of their training." The agents examined the tree but found nothing. Doubt flickered across Agent Reeves's face. "There's no mark here, Noah." "Because Shadow was never here," Noah explained patiently. "Storm says we need to try the north branch. That's where they were when the explosion happened." The agents exchanged glances. "The north branch wasn't in our initial search grid," one of them admitted. "It's an older section of the system, partially decommissioned." "That's why they were there," Noah said, his small face serious. "Storm says bad people were using the old tunnels to hide things. That's what they were looking for when everything went wrong." Agent Reeves's expression sharpened. "What kind of things, Noah?" Noah concentrated, his hand buried in Storm's fur, as if drawing information through the physical connection. "Storm doesn't know exactly. That was Shadow's job, to find the hidden things. But they smelled wrong. Dangerous." Mia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. What had her son gotten involved in? "We're adjusting our search parameters," Agent Reeves decided, already pulling out her phone to redirect the other teams. "North Branch Outlet is approximately 2 miles from here." As they returned to the vehicles, Mia pulled Noah aside. "Honey, are you sure about this? You look exhausted." Noah's eyes were indeed heavy with fatigue, but his voice remained determined. "I promised Storm we'd find Shadow, and Shadow might be hurt." Mia studied her son's face, noting the unusual maturity in his expression. This wasn't just a child's fascination with a dog. There was something deeper, a sense of responsibility that seemed beyond his years. She remembered all the times she had dismissed his uncanny perceptions, how she had encouraged him to be normal, to stop talking about hearing animals' thoughts. Had she been suppressing something real, something special? "Okay," she said softly, "but you tell me the moment you get too tired, understood?" Noah nodded, though Mia suspected he would push himself far beyond reasonable limits for Storm's sake. The drive to the North Branch Outlet took them through areas of the town Mia rarely visited, industrial zones and abandoned warehouses at the city's edge. The flood damage was evident here too, with debris scattered across access roads and water still pooling in low-lying areas. Storm grew increasingly alert as they approached. His ears pricked forward and his body tense despite his injuries. "He senses something," Noah whispered, excitement breaking through his fatigue. The North Branch outlet was an older, larger structure than the previous one, a concrete monolith partially obscured by years of unchecked vegetation. The floodwaters pouring from it had carved deep channels in the earth, creating a maze of mud and debris at its base. As soon as they parked, Storm was pawing at the door, whining urgently. "He knows Shadow is here," Noah said, his voice rising with excitement. The search team deployed quickly, spreading out with flashlights and thermal imaging equipment. The area was treacherous, with unstable mud banks and hidden sinkholes created by the rushing water. "Stay close to me," Mia instructed Noah firmly, taking his hand as they carefully made their way down to where Agent Reeves was coordinating the search. Storm, however, had other ideas. Despite his injured leg, he suddenly lunged forward, breaking away from Noah's side to scramble down the muddy slope. His movements were clumsy, but driven by desperate purpose. "Storm!" Noah called, trying to follow, but held back by Mia's grip. The German Shepherd ignored the call, disappearing into a dense patch of flood-flattened reeds at the edge of the outlet. "Let the agents go after him," Mia said, holding Noah firmly as he struggled to follow. A series of barks erupted from the reeds, not Storm's hoarse voice, but a different, sharper sound. Agent Reeves and her team immediately converged on the area, pushing through the vegetation with weapons drawn. "What's happening?" Noah asked, straining to see. Moments later, Agent Reeves emerged from the reeds, her expression a mixture of amazement and concern. "We found them," she called. "Both of them." She beckoned them forward, and Mia cautiously allowed Noah to approach, keeping a tight hold on his hand. As they reached the edge of the reed bed, she gasped at the sight before them. Storm stood beside another German Shepherd, this one coal-black where Storm was tan and gray. The black dog was thinner, with a makeshift bandage of mud and leaves plastered against its side. Around its neck was a tactical collar identical to Storm's, the embedded device blinking steadily. But it wasn't the dogs that had caused Agent Reeves's concern. It was what lay beside them, the body of a man, half submerged in mud, his face ghostly pale in the harsh light of the agent's flashlights. "Is he—" Mia couldn't finish the question, instinctively pulling Noah back. "Alive, but barely," Agent Reeves replied tersely. "Medical team is on the way." Noah broke free from Mia's grasp and ran to the dogs. Shadow, for this must be Storm's missing partner, initially growled at the approaching child, positioning himself protectively in front of the unconscious man. "It's okay," Noah said softly, slowing his approach. "I'm helping Storm. We came to find you." The black dog's ears flicked forward, his growl subsiding as he studied Noah. Storm limped to Noah's side, nudging the boy's hand with his nose as if making an introduction. Noah closed his eyes, his forehead furrowing in concentration. When he opened them again, there was understanding in his gaze. "Shadow was protecting him," he announced to the surrounding adults. "The man is his true handler. When the explosion happened, Shadow dragged him to safety, but the man hit his head." Agent Reeves knelt beside the unconscious figure, checking his pulse. "This is Agent Daniel Miller. He was reported missing 3 days ago during a classified operation." She looked up at Noah with new respect. "How could you possibly know he's Shadow's handler?" "Shadow told me," Noah replied simply. "He says Agent Miller is a good man. He can hear them too, like me." The medical team arrived, swarming around the injured agent with professional efficiency. Shadow refused to leave his handler's side, baring his teeth when anyone came too close. Only when Noah placed a gentle hand on his back did the black dog relax enough to allow the medics to work. As they prepared to transport Agent Miller to the hospital, Agent Reeves pulled Mia aside. "Mrs. Parker, what your son can do, it's extraordinary. The Guardian program has been trying to achieve this level of interspecies communication for years without success. Noah seems to have it naturally." Mia watched as her son sat between the 2 German shepherds, one hand on each dog's head, his eyes closed in what appeared to be deep communication. "What does that mean for him, for us?" Agent Reeves hesitated. "That depends on you. There are people who would very much like to understand Noah's abilities better. They could offer him specialized training, development." "You mean they want to study him?" Mia interrupted flatly. "Turn him into a lab rat or a military asset like these dogs?" "That's not—" He's 4 years old, Mia said firmly. Whatever gift he has, it's his to understand and develop as he grows, not yours. Agent Reeves studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I understand your position, but please consider this. There may be others like Noah out there, people with abilities they don't understand. Your son's gift could help us find them, help them. Before Mia could respond, Noah approached, looking even more exhausted than before, but with a certain peace in his expression. Shadow says thank you, he told Agent Reeves solemnly, for finding them and for helping Agent Miller. The agent crouched to Noah's level. You're the one who found them, Noah. We couldn't have done it without you. Noah shook his head. Storm and Shadow did the hard part. They protected the important things, just like they were trained to do. And what important things are those? Agent Reeves asked gently. Noah's answer was simple but profound. The case with the secrets, Agent Miller with the knowledge, and the connection, the special way of hearing that makes us different. As the medical team loaded Agent Miller into an ambulance, Shadow followed, never leaving his handler's side. Storm limped back to Noah, leaning heavily against the boy's small frame. What happens to Storm now? Noah asked, his arms wrapping protectively around the dog's neck. Agent Reeves looked from the child to the dog and back again, observing their undeniable bond. That's a complicated question. Technically, he's government property, and once he recovers, he should return to service. Noah's face crumpled, and Storm whined softly, pressing closer to him. But, Agent Reeves continued thoughtfully, the Guardian program has been exploring civilian applications, cases where specially trained dogs could be placed with uniquely qualified individuals. Hope bloomed in Noah's tired eyes. You mean Storm could stay with me? It would involve certain commitments, training programs, regular evaluations, occasional participation in research studies, all voluntary, and under your mother's supervision, of course. Mia placed her hands on Noah's shoulders, feeling the tension in his small body as he awaited her response. She looked down at Storm, at the intelligence and loyalty shining in the dog's eyes, and at the unmistakable connection between her son and this extraordinary animal. We'll discuss the details tomorrow, she said finally. For now, I think these two need rest and recovery time. Noah's face broke into a weary smile, and he buried it in Storm's fur. The German Shepherd's tail thumped against the mud, his eyes closing in what looked remarkably like contentment. As they made their way back to the vehicle, Noah walking slowly with one arm draped over Storm's back, Mia found herself wondering about the future that awaited them. Her ordinary life with her extraordinary son had just taken a turn she could never have anticipated. Whatever came next, she knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The following days passed in a blur of medical evaluations, debriefings, and hushed conversations just beyond Noah's hearing. The storm had finally passed, leaving Millfield to assess the damage and begin the long process of recovery. Many residents were still displaced, including Mia and Noah, who had been relocated to a government-provided apartment while their home was repaired. Storm had become Noah's constant shadow, refusing to leave the boy's side even during medical examinations. The veterinarians were amazed at the dog's rapid recovery. His injured leg was healing faster than expected, and his overall condition had improved dramatically. They attributed it to the specialized training and breeding of the Guardian program dogs. But Mia suspected it had more to do with the unbreakable bond that had formed between her son and the German Shepherd. 3 days after the rescue of Shadow and Agent Miller, Mia sat in a nondescript conference room at a local government building, listening as Agent Reeves explained the situation. The Guardian program was established as a joint venture between military special operations and civilian disaster response teams, the agent explained, sliding a folder across the table. Its primary goal was to develop canine units with enhanced capabilities for locating survivors and sensitive materials in disaster zones. Mia glanced through the documents, most of which had been heavily redacted. And where does my son fit into this? Agent Reeves leaned forward, clasping her hands on the table. What Noah demonstrates, this ability to perceive animal thoughts, represents something we've been theoretically pursuing but never actually achieved. The program tried using technology to enhance the neural connection between handlers and their canine partners, but the results were limited. So, you're saying Noah can do naturally what your technology couldn't? Precisely. And not just with Storm. His connection with Shadow, a dog he had never met before, suggests his ability transcends the one-to-one bonding we've observed in our trained handlers. Mia closed the folder, fixing Agent Reeves with a determined stare. Noah is a child, not a research subject. I agreed to this meeting to discuss Storm's future, not to sign my son up for government experiments. I understand your concerns, Agent Reeves replied, her tone softening. But please consider the possibilities. Noah's gift could revolutionize not just search and rescue operations, but our entire understanding of interspecies communication. With proper guidance and support, he could help develop protocols for identifying and training others with similar abilities. And what about his childhood? His normal development? His chance to just be a regular kid? Agent Reeves was silent for a moment, weighing her words. Mrs. Parker, I don't think regular has ever been in the cards for Noah. From what you've told us, he's been perceiving animal thoughts for most of his life. Pretending that doesn't exist won't make him normal. It will just leave him isolated and confused. The truth of those words stung. Mia thought of all the time she had dismissed Noah's imaginary conversations with animals, how she had encouraged him to keep such thoughts to himself around other children. Had she been forcing him to hide a fundamental part of himself? What exactly are you proposing? She asked finally. A partnership, Agent Reeves replied. Storm would be officially retired from active duty and placed with Noah as his companion. In return, Noah would participate in weekly sessions with our researchers, always with you present, of course, to help us better understand his abilities. As he grows older, if he chooses to continue, there would be opportunities for more formal training. And if we decide to walk away, that would be your right, though I hope you will consider what that would mean for Storm. Mia bristled at the implied threat. Are you saying you'd take Storm away from Noah if we don't cooperate? Not at all, Agent Reeves quickly clarified. Storm would remain with Noah regardless. He's bonded to your son in a way our experts have never seen before. Separating them now would be cruel to both. I'm merely suggesting that Noah might want to help other animals and handlers achieve what comes naturally to him and Storm. Mia sat back, studying the agent's face for signs of deception, but finding only earnest intensity. I need to discuss this with Noah. Despite his age, this affects him more than anyone. Agent Reeves nodded. Of course, take all the time you need. When Mia returned to their temporary apartment, she found Noah sitting on the floor with Storm, both of them focused on a pile of colored blocks. As she watched, Noah would point to a block, whisper something to Storm, and the dog would carefully pick up the indicated block with his mouth and place it on a growing structure. Are you playing or training? Mia asked, smiling at the pair. Noah looked up, his face brightening. Both. Storm is teaching me how they did exercises in his training, and I'm teaching him how to build towers. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor beside them. Noah, I need to talk to you about something important. About you and Storm, and what happens next. Noah's expression grew serious, and he placed a hand on Storm's back, as he often did when seeking reassurance. Are they going to take him away? No, honey. Storm can stay with us, but the people who trained him would like us, you especially, to help them understand how you can hear what Storm and other animals are thinking. Noah seemed to consider this, his small forehead furrowing in concentration. Would it help other people hear animals too? Maybe, they hope so. And would it help other animals like Shadow find people who can hear them? Mia nodded. That's part of what they want to learn. Noah was quiet for a long moment, his hand absently stroking Storm's fur. Finally, he looked up at his mother. Storm thinks we should help. He says there are lots of animals who try to talk to people, but most people don't listen. What do you think, Noah? Not Storm. You. Noah's answer was immediate and confident. I want to help. It feels right. Like finding Storm was supposed to happen. Mia studied her son's face, seeing wisdom beyond his years in his earnest expression. Had that always been there, she wondered, beneath the ordinary exterior of a 4-year-old boy? Then we'll help, she decided. But school and your regular life come first. And if at any point you want to stop, we stop. No questions asked. Noah nodded solemnly, then broke into a smile. Can I tell Storm? He's right here, sweetie. Can't he hear us? Noah giggled. Yes, but he likes when I tell him things out loud too. It makes him feel special. As Noah bent to whisper in Storm's ear, Mia marveled at the natural ease with which her son navigated between verbal and nonverbal communication with the dog. It was as if he had slipped into a rhythm that had always been waiting for him, a connection that completed something essential in his being. The weeks that followed established a new normal for their small family. Noah's sessions with the research team began cautiously, simple exercises to document his ability to perceive Storm's trained responses without visual cues. But as the researchers gained Noah's trust, the experiments became more complex and revealing. One afternoon, as Mia observed from behind a one-way mirror, Noah was seated in a room with Storm, while a researcher showed him photographs of locations around Millfield. "Can you ask Storm if he recognizes any of these places?" the researcher prompted. Noah studied each photograph carefully before placing his hand on Storm's neck, a gesture that had become his standard way of initiating deeper communication with the dog. "He knows this one," Noah said, pointing to an image of an abandoned warehouse. "This is where they train sometimes. There's a big room underground where they practiced finding things." The researcher made a note, her expression carefully neutral. "And this one?" She placed another photograph on the table, an ordinary-looking house on a quiet street. Noah conferred silently with Storm. "This is the bad place," he finally said. "Storm doesn't like it. Shadow found dangerous things here, and men with guns came." The researcher's pen paused mid-note, her composure slipping for just a moment. "Did Storm tell you what dangerous things Shadow found?" Noah frowned, concentrating. He didn't see them. Storm was outside, guarding. Shadow went in with Agent Miller. He looked up suddenly, his expression troubled. "There are more bad places. Storm says they only found some of them before the explosion." Later, Mia would learn that the house in the photograph had been raided by federal agents the previous month, yielding a cache of illegal weapons and explosives linked to a domestic terrorist cell. Information that had never been released to the public. Information Storm couldn't have known through any conventional means. As the sessions continued, Noah's abilities seemed to expand rather than diminish. He began reporting perceptions from animals beyond Storm, birds outside the window, a mouse living in the building's walls, a stray cat that frequented the parking lot. The researchers documented everything with growing excitement, proposing new tests and protocols almost daily. Agent Reeves, who had become a regular presence in their lives, was careful to monitor Noah's energy levels and emotional state. "We don't want to overwhelm him," she insisted whenever the scientific team grew too eager. "His well-being comes first." One evening, as Mia was preparing dinner in their temporary apartment, Agent Reeves stopped by with news. "Agent Miller has regained consciousness," she announced. "He's asking to meet Noah." Mia hesitated, knife paused over the cutting board. "Is that necessary? Noah's already had a full day of tests." "This isn't about testing," Agent Reeves clarified. "Miller has been with the Guardian program since its inception. If anyone can help Noah understand his abilities, it's him." "And why would he want to do that?" Agent Reeves's expression softened. "Because, according to his debriefing, Miller has been experiencing something similar to what Noah describes, direct perception of his dog's thoughts. It started after an experimental procedure using the neural enhancement technology designed for the program. He thought he was losing his mind until Shadow started responding to his unspoken commands." Mia set down the knife, intrigued despite her protective concerns. "So, Noah isn't the only one? The only natural, as far as we know? Miller's abilities seem to be a side effect of the technology, limited and specific to the dogs he's trained with. But he understands what Noah is experiencing in a way none of our researchers can." The decision, like so many lately, ultimately fell to Noah. When asked if he wanted to meet Agent Miller, his eyes lit up with excitement. "Yes, Storm has been wondering how he's doing, and I want to ask him about Shadow." The next day found them in a private room at the government medical facility where Agent Miller was recovering. The man who awaited them looked younger than Mia had expected, perhaps in his early 30s, with short brown hair and alert green eyes that immediately fixed on Noah with intense interest. Shadow lay on the bed beside his handler, ears perking up as Storm and Noah entered the room. The two dogs acknowledged each other with subtle movements that Mia would have missed just weeks ago, but now recognized as their unique form of greeting. "So, you're the boy who can hear them," Agent Miller said, his voice still weak from his ordeal. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Noah approached the bed without hesitation, Storm at his side. "You can hear them too, but differently." Miller smiled. "That's right, though not as clearly as you from what I understand. For me, it's like catching glimpses of their thoughts, especially when they're focused on something important. When did it start? Noah asked, displaying the directness that had both impressed and unnerved the research team. After a procedure designed to enhance my neural connection with Shadow. It was experimental. I was one of the first handlers to try it. Miller gestured to a small scar behind his ear. Something unexpected happened during the process. The scientist said it was just my brain adapting to the technology, interpreting canine behavior more efficiently. But I knew it was more than that. Noah nodded sagely. You started hearing Shadow's inside voice. Exactly. At first, just impressions, feelings, then specific thoughts, especially during our missions. Miller's gaze shifted to Mia. Most people thought I was crazy or just overly attached to my dog. It's isolating, being the only one who knows the truth. Noah's not alone, Mia said firmly. He has me, and I believe him. Agent Miller's smile was genuine. That makes all the difference. He turned back to Noah. The researchers tell me you can communicate with other animals too, not just Storm. Noah shrugged, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. All animals have thoughts. Most people just don't listen right. That's what I've been trying to tell them. Miller's excitement brought a flush of color to his pale face. It's not about technology or special training. It's about being open to a form of communication that exists all around us. For the next hour, Noah and Agent Miller exchanged experiences and insights, while Mia and Agent Reeves observed in fascinated silence. The connection between them was immediate and profound. Two individuals who had glimpsed a reality others couldn't perceive, finding validation in each other's experiences. When it was time to leave, Miller reached out to clasp Noah's small hand. Thank you for finding Shadow and bringing help. According to the doctors, I wouldn't have survived another day out there. Noah smiled. It was Storm who found you. I just helped him look in the right place. Well, I hope you'll visit again. Shadow and I have a lot more to talk about with you and Storm. As they walked back to the car, Noah unusually quiet beside her. Mia gently squeezed his shoulder. Are you okay, honey? That was a lot to take in. Noah looked up at her, his expression thoughtful. Agent Miller is like me, but different. He had to have a special operation to hear Shadow. I just always could. He paused, processing this revelation. Why am I different, Mommy? It was the question Mia had been dreading, the one that had kept her awake at night since Storm had entered their lives. How do you explain to a child that he possesses an ability science can't fully comprehend? Some people are just born with special gifts, she said carefully. Like how some kids can play music beautifully without lessons, or do math problems in their head. Your gift is being able to hear animals in a way most people can't. Noah considered this, absently stroking Storm's fur as they walked. Do you think there are other kids like me? Agent Miller seems to think it's possible. That's part of why the research is important, to find others who might have the same gift but don't understand it. Noah nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer, but as they reached the car, he paused, looking back toward the medical facility with sudden intensity. Noah, what is it? Shadow told me something right before we left, he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Something he didn't want Agent Miller to hear because it would make him worried. Mia crouched to her son's level, concern tightening her chest. What did Shadow tell you? Noah's eyes met hers, wide and serious. He said the bad people who caused the explosion know about me now. They know I can hear the dogs, and they're going to try to find me. Mia's blood ran cold. Noah, are you sure that's what Shadow meant? Maybe you misunderstood. I didn't, Noah insisted. Shadow knows because he heard the bad people talking when they thought no one was there. That's why he and Storm were guarding the case, because it has information about all the people who might be able to hear animals like I do. Mia straightened, scanning the parking lot with new paranoia. Agent Reeves was still inside, unaware of this chilling development. Should she go back and report what Noah had said? Or was this just the overactive imagination of a child caught up in a world of government secrets and special abilities? But as she looked down at her son's solemn face and the equally alert posture of Storm beside him, Mia knew this wasn't imagination. Whatever reality Noah had accessed through his connection with these extraordinary dogs, it had just become considerably more dangerous. Let's go home, she said firmly, helping Noah into the car. We need to talk to Agent Reeves about this right away. As she started the engine, Mia caught sight of Storm in the rearview mirror. The German Shepherd sat upright in the back seat beside Noah, his posture vigilant, eyes scanning the surroundings with military precision. No longer just a companion or research subject, a protector. And in that moment, Mia understood why Storm had been drawn to Noah from the beginning. Her son's gift wasn't just about communication, it was about connection, a bridge between species that could change everything. A bridge some wanted to build, and others, it seemed, would do anything to destroy. The revelation about potential danger sent the government response teams into overdrive. Agent Reeves arranged for around-the-clock protection, while investigators worked to piece together the full scope of the threat Noah faced. The waterproof case, it turned out, contained more than just classified documents. It held a complete database of individuals worldwide who had shown any indication of unusual animal communication abilities. The Guardian program wasn't just about training dogs, Agent Reeves explained during an emergency briefing. It was about identifying and cataloging people with Noah's gift. The program's creators believed that natural animal communicators could be trained to work with specially prepared canines to create the ultimate search and rescue teams. Mia felt sick as the implications sank in. You mean they were collecting information on people like my son without their knowledge? Agent Reeves nodded grimly. The program operated under the assumption that these individuals didn't fully understand their abilities and would benefit from formal training and integration into government service. But somewhere along the line, the information was leaked or stolen. By whom? That's what we're trying to determine. Agent Miller and his team were investigating a series of break-ins at veterinary clinics and animal shelters, places where people with Noah's abilities might naturally gravitate. The explosion that separated Storm and Shadow was meant to eliminate them before they could gather more evidence. Noah, who had been sitting quietly with Storm throughout the briefing, suddenly spoke up. The bad people want to find all the listeners, but not to help them. Agent Reeves looked at him sharply. What do you mean, Noah? Noah's hand found Storm's neck, and his expression grew distant as he concentrated. Storm says Shadow learned their plans before the explosion. They want to hurt the listeners because they're scared of what we can do. Scared of what you can do, how? Noah's answer sent chills through the room. Animals know things. They see things people don't notice. If someone can hear animal thoughts, they can learn secrets that are supposed to stay hidden. The room fell silent as everyone processed this revelation. Mia's mind raced as she considered the implications. How many crimes had been witnessed by animals whose testimony could never be heard? How many secrets were vulnerable to someone who could access the observations of birds, dogs, cats, and countless other creatures? That's why they want to stop us, Noah continued, before we get too good at listening. Agent Reeves was already reaching for her phone. I need to contact headquarters immediately. This changes everything about our threat assessment. Over the next week, the investigation uncovered a conspiracy that reached far beyond what anyone had initially suspected. The group targeting Noah wasn't just interested in the Guardian program. They were part of a larger organization that had been monitoring and eliminating individuals with unusual abilities for years. The database Noah had helped recover contained names, locations, and detailed profiles of over 200 people worldwide who had demonstrated some form of animal communication skills. Most disturbing was the discovery that many of these individuals had died under suspicious circumstances or simply disappeared without a trace. We're talking about a systematic elimination program, Agent Reeves reported during another briefing. Your son isn't just at risk. He may be one of the last natural animal communicators left alive. The weight of this information was staggering. Mia found herself looking at Noah with new eyes, seeing not just her gifted child, but potentially the key to preserving an entire category of human ability that someone was determined to erase from existence. What do we do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Agent Reeves's expression was grim but determined. We've identified several underground facilities where the elimination team has been operating. We need to shut them down and capture the leadership before they can complete their mission. And for that, we need Noah's help. Absolutely not, Mia said firmly. I won't put my son in danger. Mom, Noah interrupted, his voice surprisingly steady. Storm says we have to help. The other listeners are still in danger. Mia looked down at her son, seeing the same determined expression he had worn when insisting there was a dog in the flooded tunnel, but this time, the stakes were infinitely higher. What exactly are you proposing? She asked Agent Reeves. We've located what we believe is the main operations center, an underground facility disguised as a research laboratory. Our intelligence suggests they're holding several individuals with abilities similar to Noah's. We need someone who can communicate with any animals in the facility to help us navigate the underground structure and locate the prisoners. And you want a 4-year-old to do this? Agent Reeves shook her head. We want Storm to do this, with Noah's help to interpret what he finds. Noah looked up from where he had been whispering to Storm. There are dogs there, lots of dogs, and some of them used to work with the good people before they got taken. The room seemed to hold its breath as Noah continued to relay information from Storm. The bad people are using the dogs to test things, trying to make them stop listening to their partners, but it's not working right, and the dogs are getting sick. Agent Reeves leaned forward intently. Noah, can Storm tell us anything about the layout of this facility? How to get in and out safely? Noah concentrated, his small face furrowing with effort. Storm knows a dog who escaped from there. She's living in the woods nearby, too scared to come out, but she remembers the way through the tunnels. Can Storm find this dog? Noah nodded. Her name is Echo. She used to work with a lady named Sarah who could hear animals too, but Sarah got taken to the bad place and didn't come back out. Mia felt tears pricking her eyes as she realized the full scope of what they were discussing. Somewhere, probably not far away, people with abilities like Noah's were being held captive, possibly tortured, by individuals who saw their gift as a threat to be eliminated. When do we leave? She heard herself ask. The operation was planned for the following night. A combined team of federal agents and military personnel would assault the main facility, while Noah and Storm, accompanied by Agent Miller and Shadow, would attempt to locate and communicate with any dogs in the compound who might provide intelligence about the prisoners' locations. You'll be in a mobile command center at least a mile from the facility, Agent Reeves assured Mia. If Storm can make contact with the dogs inside, Noah can relay their information to help guide our teams. At no point will either of them be in physical danger. The plan seemed sound, but Mia couldn't shake her anxiety as they prepared for the mission. Noah, by contrast, seemed oddly calm, spending hours with Storm in what appeared to be intense preparation. What are you talking about? She asked her son as they sat in the government safe house the night before the operation. Storm is teaching me how to talk to lots of dogs at once, Noah replied matter-of-factly, like being the lead dog in a pack. If I can make them all hear me at the same time, we can coordinate better. Mia stared at her son, amazed once again by the rapid evolution of his abilities. Was this normal development, or was the stress of their situation causing his gift to expand in response to need? The next evening found them in a sophisticated mobile command center parked in a densely wooded area overlooking the suspected facility. Banks of monitors displayed feeds from surveillance drones and thermal imaging equipment, while radio chatter filled the air as assault teams moved into position. Noah sat in the center of it all, one hand on Storm's back, eyes closed in concentration. Agent Miller positioned himself beside them, with Shadow, ready to provide backup communication if needed. Contact established, Noah announced suddenly. Echo is here. She's been waiting for us. On the thermal imaging display, a lone dog could be seen emerging from the tree line near the facility's perimeter fence. She says there are 12 dogs inside, Noah continued, his voice taking on the distant quality it assumed during deep communication. Most of them are sick because the bad people keep doing things to their heads with machines. Agent Reeves spoke into her headset, relaying this information to the assault teams. Noah, can Echo tell us where the prisoners are being held? Noah's face scrunched with concentration. She says, underground, 3 levels down, but there are traps and security dogs that have been turned mean. Turned mean how? The bad people did something to their brains, made them not listen to their handlers anymore. Now they only attack. This information prompted a flurry of tactical adjustments as the assault teams prepared for a more complex infiltration than originally planned. Noah, Agent Miller said softly, can you ask Echo if any of the dogs inside remember their original handlers? If they might still respond to familiar commands? Noah relayed the question, then shook his head sadly. Most of them don't remember, but there's one, a big brown dog named Titan. He misses his handler very much. The handler is down there too, in the prison place. The operation began at exactly midnight. Through the drone feeds, they watched as the assault teams moved toward the facility, their approach guided by intelligence from Echo and the other dogs Noah had made contact with inside the building. "The good dogs are trying to help," Noah reported, his voice strained with effort. "But the mean dogs are getting angry. They can sense the good dogs talking to me." Sounds of conflict began to filter through the radio chatter, shouting, the bark of dogs, and the sharp crack of weapons fire. "Teams are engaging hostile forces on the main level," came the report from the field commander. "We need that location on the prisoners now." Noah's whole body tensed with concentration. Titan is trying to tell me, but the bad people are hurting him to make him stop. He says, "Elevator shaft. Behind the wall that looks like a bookcase. Sarah is there. Sarah and 5 others." The information was immediately relayed to the assault teams. Minutes later, confirmation came through the radio. Prisoners located, 6 individuals in underground holding cells. Medical team is en route. But the victory was short-lived. Alarms began blaring from the facility, and the thermal imaging showed figures moving rapidly through the corridors. "They're trying to destroy everything," Agent Miller reported, studying the tactical displays, "setting fires and wiping computer systems." Noah suddenly gasped, his eyes flying open. "Titan! They're hurting Titan because he helped us!" Before anyone could react, Storm was on his feet, pulling toward the exit of the command vehicle. Noah scrambled after him, breaking free from Agent Reeves's restraining hand. "Noah, stop!" Mia cried, lunging for her son. But Noah was already outside, Storm beside him, both of them focused on the distant facility with laser-like intensity. "I can help them," Noah said, tears streaming down his face. "The good dogs are dying because they tried to help us." Agent Reeves appeared at the vehicle's door. "Noah, get back inside. It's not safe." Noah shook his head, dropping to his knees beside Storm. "I have to try. Please." Mia looked from her son to the burning facility in the distance, her heart breaking at the anguish in Noah's voice. How could she deny him the chance to save the animals who had risked everything to help them? "5 minutes," she said finally. "But if it gets too dangerous, we're leaving." Noah nodded gratefully and closed his eyes, both hands now buried in Storm's fur. In the distance, the sounds of conflict continued, but something had changed. The barking of dogs had become more coordinated, less chaotic. "I can hear them all now," Noah whispered. "Even the mean dogs. They're not really mean. They're just scared and confused." What happened next would be documented in government reports as a spontaneous de-escalation of hostile canine forces. But Mia witnessed something far more extraordinary. Through some combination of Noah's gift and Storm's leadership, every dog in the facility seemed to suddenly remember their original training. The vicious attack dogs stood down, the frightened captives emerged from hiding, and even the dying ones seemed to find peace in Noah's mental presence. The operation was declared a complete success within the hour. 6 prisoners were rescued, including Sarah, a woman in her 30s who had been missing for over a year. The facility's computers yielded terabytes of data about the elimination program, leading to arrests across multiple countries. But for Noah, the real victory was smaller and more personal. As the sun rose over the cleared facility, a large brown dog limped out of the building, supported by 2 federal agents. Titan had survived his ordeal, and when he saw Noah waiting by the command vehicle, his tail began to wag for the first time in months. Noah ran to meet him, and the big dog collapsed gratefully into the boy's embrace. They stayed that way for a long time, child and animal communicating in the silent language only they fully understood. "What is he telling you?" Mia asked softly, kneeling beside them. Noah looked up, his face streaked with tears but glowing with quiet joy. "He says thank you for not forgetting about them. And he says..." Noah paused, listening intently. "He says his handler Sarah is going to be okay. She never stopped trying to hear him, even when the bad people told her she was crazy." 3 months later, Noah stood in front of a small memorial garden that had been created behind the new Guardian program headquarters. 12 granite stones marked the resting places of the dogs who had died in the underground facility before they could be rescued. Storm stood quietly beside him, along with Shadow, Titan, Echo, and several other dogs who had survived their ordeal. "They didn't die for nothing," Noah said softly, placing a small bouquet of wildflowers at the base of the central memorial stone. "They died protecting the connection between animals and people. They died so we could keep listening." Agent Reeves, Agent Miller, and Sarah, who had become another mentor figure in Noah's life, stood respectfully behind as the boy completed his private ceremony. The Guardian program had been completely restructured in the wake of the underground facility raid, Instead of operating in secret, it now functioned as an open research initiative designed to identify, support, and train people with natural animal communication abilities. Noah had become not just their primary case study, but their ambassador to a world that was slowly beginning to accept the reality of interspecies communication. "What's next for you?" Sarah asked as they walked away from the memorial garden. Noah looked up at her, then at Storm, who had never left his side since that first night in the flooded tunnel. "Storm says there are others out there, kids like me who can hear animals but don't know it's real. He wants to help find them." "And what do you want?" Mia asked, taking her son's hand. Noah smiled, the same pure, joyful expression he had worn as a toddler, but now tempered with wisdom beyond his years. "I want to help people and animals understand each other better. I want to make sure no one ever has to feel alone, just because they can hear things others can't." He looked back at the memorial garden one more time, where sunlight filtered through the trees and touched the granite stones with golden light. "Storm says that's what heroes do," he added quietly. "They listen when no one else will, and they never give up on the connections that matter most." As they walked toward the car, Storm and the other dogs forming a protective circle around Noah, Mia reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed since that stormy night, when her son had first insisted there was a dog crying in the tunnel. What had started as a mother's reluctant indulgence of her child's imagination had become a mission that saved lives and opened new possibilities for human and animal cooperation. Noah had found his purpose not through grand gestures or dramatic heroics, but through the simple act of listening, really listening, to a voice that desperately needed to be heard. In doing so, he had not only saved Storm, but had discovered his own extraordinary gift and the courage to use it for something greater than himself. Some heroes, Mia realized, don't bark or bite or fight. Some heroes simply listen with their whole hearts, creating connections that bridge the spaces between species, between understanding and fear, between what is and what could be. And sometimes, that's the most powerful heroism of all. The story of Noah and Storm spread far beyond official reports and classified files. It became a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever felt misunderstood or alone in their unique perceptions of the world. And in communities around the globe, children began to feel safer admitting that they too could hear the inner voices of animals, knowing that somewhere, a boy named Noah and a dog named Storm were listening too, ready to help them understand that their gift was not a burden, but a bridge to a richer, more connected world. If this story touched your heart and made you believe in the extraordinary connections that exist all around us, share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Comment below and tell us about any special bonds you've witnessed between humans and animals. Because every connection matters and every voice deserves to be heard.